Good Friday is one of the few times that we talk openly and honestly about death. Jesus' death. Jesus on the cross, that's at the center of our faith. It's the reason that we are here for this service. And we see symbols of that death all around, particularly in the symbol of the cross. We are very open and honest about death. So it feels appropriate to be open and honest about how Jesus died, what it actually would have been like. So consider this a trigger warning of sorts. Now, we hear from the Passion reading that we just heard, as well as the Passion reading that we heard this Sunday, that Jesus' death was a very painful one. He suffered before he died. We can learn exactly why he suffered from what we've learned through the study of medical sciences. What we know about crucifixion is the way that it was set up, the way that Jesus would have been nailed to the cross would have been in such a way that he would have had, and anyone who was crucified would have had to use all of their strength to keep themselves from breathing. So in order to continue breathing, they had to use their entire strength to move their body up and down so that their lungs could continue to fill up with air. So what happened with crucifixion is that when you finally lost all of your strength, well, then you'd suffocate to death. So when we hear in the Passion reading in this service that the soldiers were commanded to break the bones that would have of the people's legs, that would have just made the process quicker. You don't have your legs, you don't have the strength to keep breathing, and you suffocate all the more quickly. This means of death was designed to be as terrible and as torturous as possible. Having those big crosses, that would have been so that they could have put them just outside the city, as we see with Jesus, where anyone passing by could see it. And it was basically a giant neon sign to anybody coming saying, this is what happens when you mess with the Roman Empire. This is a death designed for maximum pain, torment, and humiliation. Now, I don't say this to shock you. I don't say it so that you'll feel shame. The reason I'm talking about how exactly it was that Jesus suffered is so that when you suffer, you will know that Jesus knows exactly what it is to suffer. When you suffer, Jesus knows exactly what that feels like. Today, we mourn the death of Jesus. We mourn that he died for us. But in our mourning, there is hope. And that hope is that whenever we suffer, whenever we find ourselves in sorrow, we know that Jesus is there. Because God came down into this world. God came down to be one with us, to be one of us. And in doing so, God also died in this world, just as we all do. And so through Jesus, we know that when we suffer, the omnipotent Creator, who has also suffered through Jesus, knows what it is like to suffer, and thus is with us, is present with us in our own suffering. So whenever you are in sorrow, whenever you mourn, just as we mourn for Jesus today, and just as we may be mourning for others that we have lost in our life, know that God knows what it is like to suffer. God knows what it's like to feel pain. And so when we suffer, when we are in pain, God is there with us in that pain and in that suffering. So whatever you go through, whatever befalls you, remember this moment. You are not alone. You always have Jesus.